former Secret Service agent. He was in this role of just heading up security and making sure everything would go smoothly in 1993 and 1997 for those inaugurations. For Bill Clinton, he joins us right now. Dan, thank you for taking the time.
Sure thing, Neil.
Now, you didn't have to shut down the Capitol or anything like that. Everyone was invited. These quadrennial events are an open party to all the American people, whether you voted for the guys being sworn in or not. Very different circumstances changed by events the week before last. I get that. What do you make of everything and every precaution and the 25,000 plus troops, all of that?
No, Neil, back in those days, it was really the good old days where everybody sort of got along and everything was just sort of went along in a traditional manner. This particular inauguration is going to be one like no other. Number one, the fact that there's not really going to be anybody there, which that makes it easy to control, because if there are no people, then, your threat level is greatly diminished. You add to that the overwhelming show of force, which, an overwhelming show of force in many cases will actually deter the violence that might come along. So I anticipate that we're going to have a pretty peaceful inauguration and nothing along the lines of last Wednesday.
Obviously, even before last Wednesday, if you think about it, Dan, because of the virus, it was going to be, I wouldn't say a low-key, but a lower-key affair. Now we got word, and I've talked to a number of congressmen and women this past week and they have, free tickets. They can go, right? And they don't want to go. Not all of them, certainly, but a good many. So I'm just wondering, I understand the immediate area around the Capitol is closed off. Roads and bridges, some 4 of them that go into and out of the district will be shut down if they're not already. Some might say this is overkill. Do you think it's overkill?
No, I don't. Not this time due to Corona and due to what happened last Wednesday. Quite frankly, last Wednesday, the Capitol Police got caught flat-footed in spite of an abundance of intelligence telling them that something was going to happen. I can assure you that Director Jim Murray of the Secret Service is not going to get caught flat-footed on Inauguration Day. So, no, I don't think it's overkill. I don't think there's any such thing as overkill in a situation like this because it can't be allowed to happen again.
Dan, the added threat is not so much the Capitol right now, but this weekend, given the fact that a number of Trump-friendly protests were supposed to take place this weekend, are scheduled to go, and a number of governors have taken, efforts to make sure they don't get out of hand. What are your thoughts on that? Because even in Florida, they brought in troops, and a number of other states, they brought in troops, Virginia. I'm just wondering what you make of that and just getting through the weekend.
I think the governors are making a very wise decision by deploying the guard they have remaining. I know a lot of them, almost all of them, have committed forces to the Washington, D.C. area. So the ones they have held back in reserve certainly should be used to protect their own capitals. Look, you have to learn from history, Neil. And the history is that if you underestimate your adversary, that bad things are going to happen. So any governor that gets overwhelmed by rioters and so on just hasn't been paying attention.
Dan, just a personal insight, seeing as you have quite a bit of experience and seeing the baton pass from one president to another. Usually we physically see that, certainly for those of us even watching on TV. We won't see it this go round. President Trump will be leaving early Inauguration Day morning, heading off to Florida. So that symbolic passing of the baton is not going to happen. We saw that, of course, in the first inauguration that you handled, going from George Bush Sr. to Bill Clinton. I guess from a security standpoint, that might be, given everything that's happened, a welcome development. But your thoughts on that?
Well, the simpler the better. Normally every 4 years, the Secret Service just dusts off the playbook from the last inauguration, makes a few adjustments, and it's business as usual. That's just not the case here. I think, though, one of the biggest things, Neil, is that the forces involved, whether it's the 25,000 guards, soldiers, or whether it's law enforcement, they have to have a very clear rules of engagement set forth. It doesn't do any good to have thousands of security people if they don't know what they're supposed to do when confronted with any given situation. So I think that in this case, they're all going to be well-versed in what they can do, what they can't do, everything from non-lethal force all the way up to lethal force. Hopefully, the guardsmen who are all carrying M4 weapons, hopefully they'll actually have ammunition.
You know, they haven't been able to connect with the last Wednesday's uprising, whatever you want to call it, Nan, whether it was aggressively pre-planned or whether there was more of a method to it. They haven't determined that yet. Still, a Capitol Police lieutenant was relieved of his duties for wearing a MAGA hat. There are others that apparently are part of a widening probe and a sweep of more than 300 individuals at last count. What do you think of just those developments and the sheer number of people who are being investigated now?
Well, law enforcement officers, people in the military, they all are allowed to have their own political beliefs, but they have to leave those political beliefs at the door when they put their uniform on, when they put the badge on, when they go to work. And they also have to keep in mind that they are a reflection of their department or their agency. So regardless of their political beliefs, political views, each one has the obligation to behave within a certain parameter of deportment and not bring disgrace, if you will, or embarrassment on their department.
All right, and we should clarify, this lieutenant who was relieved of his duties had been wearing that MAGA hat on duty that day, and that's what obviously brought up the concern. Dan, thank you very, very much for giving this perspective. We needed that. Dan Emmett,